File this next segment under "It's just too crazy to be true." So let's find out if it is, as we ask on the show today, what is a sovereign citizen? Why are we seeing a rise in people claiming to be sovereign citizens in Australia? And is it in any way the legal magic solution that they claim it to be? Yes, we will endeavour to answer those questions for you today. So what is a sovereign citizen? Well, collectively, a sovereign citizen and the sovereign citizenship movement is a loose grouping of activists and tax protesters and financial scheme promoters, along with conspiracy theorists, the tinfoil hatters, who claim to be answerable only to their particular interpretations of the common law. And they believe that they are therefore not subject to any government statutes or proceedings unless they consent to them. So technically it's like, I don't agree with that law, I don't consent to it, so I don't have to obey by that law, is the fundamental understanding of what a sovereign citizen is and the way they think. Sovereign citizens may and have, and we've seen this in Australia, issue their own driver's license and vehicle tags, challenging the traffic laws, and in extreme cases resort to violence to protect their believed rights. The rise of sovereign citizenship in Australia has gained much media attention and started confusing the living hell out of most of us. About several weeks ago, after a almost 5-minute video of a self-proclaimed sovereign citizen went viral online. The video had a woman in a car, and she was pulled over by police in New South Wales for not having number plates. And the woman, who goes by the name of Chloe Fisher, produced a self-made ID, driver's license, claiming that she was not part of the state and that she was private, not under public license, and operates under her own moral law, LORE, not the law, LAW, of the government. Let's take a listen to some of that clip here.
So whereabouts are the plates that belong to the vehicle? The registration plates?
Where are
that
they?
are actually attached to it? That it's obviously registered?
Yeah.
Yep. So whereabouts are the number plates that belong to the vehicle?
In the car.
In the car at the moment?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Why aren't they being displayed?
Well, I'm going sovereign.
Okay.
Pretty much. I'm slowly removing myself from being under your corporation, because you're actually a corporation, so you're like you just collect money. You're like a business.
Well, I'm not, but sure.
Yeah, you work for the company.
Whatever you think,
yeah.
Sure.
So anyway, I'm just transitioning into interactions with police and getting all my certificates and everything I need to pretty much state that you have no authority over me, because without the number plates and without the license, I'm not actually under your membership. So you can rightfully pull over anyone who has a registration plate in whatever state, because you're registered into a membership. I know you're probably not interested, but without that, technically you end up in court and it gets thrown out because they say, oh, you've got loss of licence. But if I don't run under a licence, then there's nothing to lose.
Well, under the legislation, obviously, in New South Wales, you are driving a vehicle, well, you're not currently driving right now, which is fine, but whilst you're driving a vehicle in New South Wales, it must be registered.
Yeah, they say that in every state.
To drive now. Okay?
Only if I'm
That's
under
obviously
your...
why I'm making these inquiries. Yes, you understand that?
Well, I guess that's your job.
Bit of a long clip, I know, but it just goes to show the crazy of it all. But it doesn't stop there. There have been other incidents filmed across Australia. In fact, there's only one that went wild online yesterday, where sovereign citizens were driving around Canberra with a megaphone inviting everyone to a barbecue on Parliament Hill today for Australia Day, around midday, I think they said, I don't know how that went. I don't really care, because I can imagine all of it is going to be is a bunch of people standing around just nodding and agreeing with a megaphone with no real agenda or direction of what they're going to protest or do. But another one, a couple of days ago in Coffs Harbour, you may have seen this online. Police broke a woman's car window after she refused to comply with the officer's requests.
You guys don't even know what you're on about.
I need your most senior on duty.
You don't know. You don't have any jurisdiction on this land. Oh, look out!
You're under arrest.
You're a creep.
Yep.
Yeah, man, I would love to just get you one-on-one.
Turns out the woman had an outstanding arrest, or many outstanding arrest warrants, and she was arrested and charged with a string of offences. Want more? Let's do it.
I have been pulled over by the police. Can I please get your name? Have you got your video?
My name's Acting Sergeant Gibson. I'm from Gold Coast Highway Patrol.
Okay. Now have I?
Stop talking for a second. Listen to what I'm asking you. What's your full name?
I do not consent.
You're going to be arrested shortly for failing to provide your details.
Under what law?
Listen to me.
You listen to me, please.
I'm speaking to you.
Okay.
I've asked you to state your full and correct name.
Can I please?
And I need to explain about your driver's licence at the moment.
Can I have a say?
No, I've asked you to explain.
Why can I
I've
not
asked you,
talk?
Listen. I've asked you to state your full
I
and correct
think you're
name.
being very
If you fail to
aggressive.
provide those details,
You're
I
being
will have
very
you arrested.
aggressive.
Do you understand?
Why?
What is your full name?
What crime have I committed? What
State
crime?
your full name. You are unlicensed at the moment. And
Excuse
you're obstructing
Excuse me.
I'm starting to see a pattern in the way they talk to the police, the sovereign citizens. Now let's dive deeper and find out how comprehensive and comprehensible their arguments are. Let's take a listen to a sovereign citizen, a self-proclaimed sovereign citizen, who goes by the name of Luke Simpson in one of his online talks that he posted to social media. This Luke Simpson guy, he was the passenger of the woman who had her car window smashed out that we played in the previous clip. The guy with the colourful language and the guy who wanted to resort to violence after the car window was smashed. Let's take a listen to how he frames their argument in a logical way.
But this operation on this continent is nothing but a cooperation. So Reconvey and Helen has now detached herself from the strawmen. She has copyrighted her names, and Helen is known now as Helen Mary, not Helen Mary Delaney in capital letters, right? And that's, I guess, just a little bit of that. So in terms of Helen being a reconveyed national, and actually registered to an original nation of Terra Australis known as the Gumbaynggirr Nation. She is signed, has live birth certificate. The crime, the incident that happened yesterday was what they had done was invoked international law, and anyone that was participant in the abduction of Helen was in violation of the Geneva Convention, Article 31.
Yeah, that all made logical sense. First thing to address here, what is the Geneva Convention, Article 31, that he referenced? Well, in a nutshell, the Geneva Convention, Article 31, is all about refugees and the contracting states not being able to apply restrictions of movements of such refugees, and any restrictions or law shall not be applied on a refugee until their status in the country is regularized or they obtain admission into another country. I spent hours trying to research this, and that's what I've come up with, and I can't make a connection between the Geneva Convention, Article 31, and sovereign citizenship. We do have an expert coming on the show real soon, and I'm going to ask him to clarify that for me. Secondly, where do they get all this jargon that we keep hearing over and over again? You know, the corporation, the straw men, and all the gobbledygook jargon that they believe that they can sprout to police officers and in courts of law in front of a judge after they've been arrested, that they think will get them off the crimes and charges they have been convicted of. Well, it turns out that in my research, it's a scam. Yep, there are websites out there selling a bunch of guidebooks and how-to manuals, and they run seminars on becoming a sovereign citizen with wild claims that perpetuate false ideas and hopes that you can get away with being a sovereign citizen if you follow their step-by-step instructions. Now, these guides that people can, in some cases, spend hundreds of dollars on also claim that they have worked in the past for many cases. But has it worked? Has it worked? And has it worked, more importantly, here in Australia? Well, joining us on the show to talk sovereign citizenship and the legality of it all is Senior Lecturer at the UTS Facility of Law, Harry Hobbs. Harry, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. First up, what is your take on the rise of sovereign citizenship in Australia?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. There's been a number of people, I guess, who claim that they don't need to follow the law. They don't consent to it. They never agreed to the law that was passed by Parliament. And they really don't want to have anything to do with the law when it applies to them. Not everyone who feels this way is a sovereign citizen, but a growing group of people, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, have been attracted to this ideology. So a lot of it seems to be related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and this is a case where people suddenly, perhaps some people who really don't feel the effects of the law, felt for the first time those effects, requiring to wear masks, unable to leave your home or your local council area. And they push back against that imposition by saying, well, I never agreed to this, and why should I have to follow this law? And so really that's sort of the rise of people who, I think COVID there is really the reason for a lot of people getting attracted to this movement in the first place.
I can understand the rise against the COVID mandates that were essentially forced upon a lot of people, and a lot of people not being very happy with that. But we've seen a rise in the cases of say drivers being pulled over. These are the videos that they're surfacing online. The drivers who don't want to give their details or have defect cars, claiming sovereign citizenship as a way to try and avoid dealing with the police or getting in trouble with the law. Is there any way for people legally to claim sovereign citizenship to get away with breaking the law in the country, or is it just a nonsensical thing?
It's a nonsensical thing. There's no way that you can avoid the ordinary operation of the laws of the land by saying you don't consent to it or that doesn't apply to you because you're a sovereign citizen. All people who reside within the territory of Australia have to follow Australian law. That's whether you're an Australian citizen or not. Even if there was such a thing as a sovereign citizen, which again legally there is not, you would still have to abide by Australian law. What happened, I guess, through COVID was that people got attracted to this ideology. Maybe they started to think, well, is there a way that I can avoid having to wear masks? And often the way these work is because there's no sort of centralised repository or hierarchical system. Most people watch YouTube videos or Facebook videos and see people trying to do certain things. And often they're edited in such a way that it looks like they might work. And so someone who is initially attracted to this because of COVID or some other reason sort of goes down a rabbit hole and starts to become more and more enamored with this idea. They may, as you said, not have a driver's license. They may not register their vehicle. They might stop paying their mortgage, et cetera, in a way just to try and avoid having to follow the laws of the land. Again, it never works. It has never worked, and it won't work for you. What it will do is get you into more trouble.
Yeah, you mentioned these YouTube videos and these seminars that are popping up everywhere. One of the repeated things we keep seeing is people reference the Geneva Convention, Article 31. With Article 31, I've looked at it. I don't understand law. That's why you're here on the show. Article 31 references refugees. You've got experience with international law. How does this work? Can you explain it to a layperson like myself? How does it work And how does it apply to sovereign citizenship? And what's the connection they're trying to make there?
Look, I do have experience in international law and constitutional law in Australia, but I can tell you that I don't understand the link. There is no link. A lot of what people do is they sort of might be non-legally trained, but they might find legal instruments. They could be foundational texts such as the Magna Carta or the Geneva Conventions, and they read the text in a certain way that has no bearing on how it actually applies in Australia. So the way international law works in Australia, like the Geneva Conventions, like the Magna Carta, these sorts of things, they don't apply in Australia unless the Australian Parliament says they apply. So they don't apply. There is no reason for you to quote Geneva Conventions, the Magna Carta, even the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. If you're being stopped by the police officer, that has no bearing in Australia. It doesn't affect Australian law at all. So I can't explain how they think it might work, except that it's just a very literal interpretation of what the text appears to say. But again, you'd have to go to law school to understand what it actually means in practice. And this is, I guess, one of the challenges or potential reasons for the rise of sovereign citizens or people who are applying these things we call pseudo-law or pseudo-legal theories, is that there isn't a great understanding of what law actually is or how law applies in Australia. There's a poor legal knowledge amongst the community, and that's fair enough, right? It's hard. You've got to train. It's difficult. It's complex. But it's some people who feel upset about something, they feel frustrated by something, and they find an international legal instrument that might be pointed to them by a YouTube video or some guru in one of these seminars, and it doesn't mean anything that the person is telling them it means. It's a lie. People who are doing this are really trying to scam you out of money. So that's what their game is. They're trying to scam you out of money, and you're the fool who ends up getting losing your money to the seminar person, but also getting in more trouble by the police.
I'm so glad. Thank you for that. I'm so glad you said that there is absolutely no connection, because I can't tell you how many hours I spent reading the Geneva Convention article and trying to make some sort of connection. Here I was thinking that I'm an idiot, but I'm not the idiot.
And can I say this is another really important point, though, because if someone comes up to you and is very sure of themselves and they say the Geneva Convention Article 31 says I have the right to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
If you don't know the law, you might think that they're telling the truth or that they're correct, because how do you know that they're not, right? It might sound ludicrous, but if they're really persistent and really adamant and they seem to be quoting legal text to you, it's natural that you'll think, okay, well, I guess they're telling the truth, and so I'll let them do what they want to do, or I'll just step back. But it's important to know that what they're saying is legally incorrect, and they do have to wear a mask if that's the regulation at that time, or they do have to have a driver's license, etc., etc.
Yeah. Tough question. How is this solved or fixed, or is this just something new that we're going to have to live with? People claiming sovereign citizenship and wonderful videos uploaded to TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think a lot of it has to do with legal education and letting people understand that there's no get out of jail free card. Unfortunately, when it comes to the law, you have to follow whatever Parliament has passed and whatever the government has enacted. So there is no get out of jail free card. I think it also relates to a lot of people feeling unease or anxious or an anxiety, I guess, about their position in society, whether that might be because of COVID-19, whether that could be because rising inflation might mean that they feel that they might not be able to repay their mortgage. There are a lot of people who feel pressure and stressed about these causes that they can't control, and they latch onto something that seems to be certain or seems to have some degree of certainty. And someone telling you that if you say these magic words, you'll get out of any dispute with the police, or you won't have to pay for certain things. Some people initially get attracted to that. And if they look at the TikTok videos or Facebook videos, the way they're edited, it often seems that it works. And so it is just this rabbit hole that people go down. So, how do you solve it? It's very hard, but it's a larger social problem. But it probably relies on people who, if you do have family or friends who you see are going down that rabbit hole, trying to pull them up a little bit and trying to explain how this actually doesn't work for them. And it'll make things worse.
Do like what we've done. Talk to a person who knows, a lawyer. Harry Hobbs, Senior Lecturer at the UTS Facility of Law. Thank you so much for your time today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So to sum up, let's go back to the question we asked at the beginning of this segment. What is a sovereign citizen? Why are we seeing a rise in people claiming to be sovereign citizens in Australia? And is this in any way the legal magic solution it's claimed to be? Well, in a nutshell, it's all a crock. Sovereign citizens don't believe the law applies to them. They get to pick and choose which ones they like, and when they are required to go to court after breaking the law of the country, they try to argue. But so far, it has not worked, with no case of sovereign citizenship winning in Australia thus far. And why are we seeing a rise of this? Well, there's two sides to this. Sadly, some genuine people who are disenfranchised with the rule of law in this country are being convinced that sovereign citizenship is a valid alternative. And on the other side, we have lawbreakers trying to use this as a means to get away with crime. I feel sorry for one, and I laugh at the other. Have we seen the end to this? Probably not for the foreseeable future. But we have learned that the idea of being a sovereign citizen and sovereign citizenship as a whole is a waste of time and money, and it doesn't work. It's not legal, and whatever crime people think they can get away with, they can't. Let's just hope that this mad craze doesn't get too far out of hand. But at least, you know, we all know that there's a giant crock pot of crazy out there. And if you see anything coming your way that is related to sovereign citizenship, whether it be friends or family or work colleagues or whatever, well, now we're all better informed on what it's all about. It's all a waste of time. But let's just enjoy the videos as they keep being pumped out by these people. It's a work of fiction.
The Troy Murphy Show.